About this low-fat thing, I feel that we're not all on the same page. Matter of fact, I think we're on a lot of different pages. When we say low-fat, we don't mean that the diet is lower in fat than is normal or healthy, of course. We mean in low-fat as in that's our natural type of diet. I'd like to help get us all on the same page here for our discussions. And since there's a lot of people out there who are not reading the book, I will read the book for you right now. It'll only take a minute or so. The first thing I found here is I want to get rid of the perception that Doug Graham just made up the numbers 80, 10, 10. Here's some people or groups that came before Doug Graham, I suppose. Maybe some came before. Let's see. This person, author of Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill, has extensively researched the topic of fat, discussed consumption and health. What's more, he sells fat for a living, yet in his book he recommends we eat just 15 to 20% of our calories from fat. The Pritikin Longevity Center, holding the finest heart disease reversal record of any organization in the U.S., recommends a dietary fat consumption of 10%. Dean Ornish, 10%. Esselstyn, 10%. Neil Bernard, 10%. McDougall, Clapper, Goldhammer, Harris, Ruth Hedrich. Do a lot is look at nature. These numbers are found in nature. Many species eat around 80, 10, 10. Doug Graham didn't just make up these numbers. It's strange to me that there's people apparently in the 80, 10, 10 community, but they don't believe in it. Like Evan and Dan, they say 10% is not enough fat. But Evan noted that if you're not eating overts, then you're at 3%, which is enough to win races. But he says you should add a little more will get you up to 10, which he says is not high enough. He mentioned 20 or 30%. Now I get around 10%. And I eat avocado almost every day. I eat high-fat foods here, and I remain 10%. They'd have to be eating 2 or 3 times the amount of fat I eat. That's not necessary, and it could be bad for you. And I'd like to quickly go over why a low-fat diet. What are the problems caused by high-fat intake? Okay, cooked or raw, too much fat is still too much fat. Cooked or raw, higher than healthy levels of fat in the bloodstream force fat to adhere to arterial walls. Embolism, myocardial infarction, cerebral infarction. Cooked or raw, increased fat in the bloodstream reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of red blood cells, predisposing us to cancer. Also affects cellular function, including muscle and brain cell function. Brain function. Brain.
I'm also still working on regenerating my brain. Where you've got proteins and fat and fat and fat and fat and fat and fat, nuts and seeds. I can potentially drive everyone nuts, including myself.
And I didn't have the fats, and so I would eat the eggs and it would stabilize me.
That's craziness.
Let's see. Cooked or raw, increased fat in the bloodstream requires an increased adrenaline response in order to drive the pancreas to produce insulin, which it already did because fat traps the carbohydrates in the bloodstream. And it keeps it there where it's not supposed to be. The pancreas keeps working to try to get rid of it. You can't do it because of the fat. Sticks around for up to a day.
Fats, fats, fats.
Then you have adrenal exhaustion, which is a precursor for conditions such as mononucleosis, Epstein-Barr virus, chronic fatigue syndrome, post-viral fatigue syndrome, lupus, and myofascial disease. The USDA and their RDAs recommends that 20 to 35% of calories be consumed as fat. This advice is significantly skewed to the high side by the financial and lobbying influence of the U.S. dairy and meat lobbies. Now, anybody with money, big money, or power has a hand in the recommendations by the U.S. government. Corrupt. And let's not even have an argument about that. Moving on. In his book, The China Study, Campbell shed some light on this long-standing problem. In '82, while serving on a National Academics of Science expert panel, he co-authored a report. The first guideline states that high-fat consumption is linked to cancer and recommended reducing our fat intake from 40 to 30% of calories. The report acknowledged that the 30% goal is arbitrary, but the data could easily have justified a greater reduction. So, to reiterate, the data, you know, the numbers, facts, and observation, the data could have justified a much lower fat. It would help to prevent the problems that we have so much in our society. They're unnatural problems caused by an unnatural level of fat intake. So why didn't they just make the numbers lower? Why didn't they recommend lower numbers? Well, we find that out in the next paragraph. A more helpful, greater reduction, however, was not to be. As Campbell describes, the director of the USDA Nutritional Laboratory told us that if we went below 30%, which is today's recommendation, consumers would be required to reduce animal food intake, and that would be the death of the report. See government lobbies. Now, one more paragraph I'm going to read. In spite of such continuous industry pressure, some public agencies have succeeded in publishing lower guidelines. The World Health Organization and the Food and Agriculture Organization recommends a diet consisting of 15 to 30% fat. They say going as low as 15 is good and won't give you any problems. And then there's the private sources, Pritikin Longevity Center, Ornish, Esselstyn, Bernard, all those things I read before. They all recommend 15 to 10%. Now, how come they can do it, but the people working for the USDA couldn't do it? Private sources and the World Health Organization. Here's a picture for me. How was that different from the USDA? It's the letters US, which stands for United States, which is the capital of mass-producing meat, the inventor of factory farms. Big money, big lobbying. This is your country on fat. Any questions? Post them below in the comments section, and I'll answer them in a future video. Time for breakfast.